and welcome to the rental realm, where transparency meets opportunity in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Nicole, traveling full-time in an RV, connecting with real estate agents and investors across the U.S. to give you an inside look at what's really happening in our rental markets. From short-term to long-term rentals, we're uncovering the numbers behind these deals. Today, I have Emily with us, who is a short-term rental investor, but also, more importantly, she is a coach for social media marketing, which in this day and age, it is becoming more and more important to be listing on multiple sites. So I'm really excited to have Emily here today to chat about how to increase your revenue as a short-term rental. So Emily, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm really pumped to hear about it because it's also stuff I need to hear more and more about for my own business, but would love to start off just hearing a little bit about you and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah, so I live in South Knoxville area, which is about 30 minutes from the Great Smoky Mountains. And so we've always kind of dreamed about owning a cabin one day, like how cool that would be, you know, close to Dollywood and all the places that we go all the time as a family. And this was a couple years ago. I started looking on Zillow and I found a for sale by owner property. And my dad and we started talking about it. And as soon as I kind of realized, oh, he's interested in this, like interested in doing this with me, then I got really serious about looking and contacting that owner. And eventually I went to finally go see the property with the owner and we made an offer. Our offer was actually a little bit under the highest offer, but I think it was because I got to meet with the owner and just tell him our story and how we wanted to do this together as a family. And sure enough, he accepted that offer. And then we got to work on a full renovation. It was a whole like gut job of everything but the floors, you know, and the walls we renovated. So that took a few months. And then as soon as that happened, I put it on Airbnb and got a direct booking site. And the rest is history.
I love that so much that you're getting to do that with family. And I know some people say not to work with family, but I know it's going very well for you guys. So that's awesome. You've been able to do that with your family. And brilliant that you started from the beginning with social media marketing. I wish that we would have 3 years ago. I don't know what year you actually started, but we started about 3 years ago now. And Airbnb used to be all you needed, but definitely not turning into that anymore. And I know your market is pretty busy as well. So I feel like being on social media and really upping that is the key to success in this new time of short-term rentals.
Yeah, so I actually started the marketing. I've been in marketing for a long time. And so I knew I wanted to show the property before we were ready to launch and accept guests. I wanted to show the before and afters and the process and like take people on the journey because my goal was to build an email list. I wanted people to say, I want to be the first, you know, give them an incentive and exciting time to be the first guest to stay there or get a special discount for joining our email list. And that's really how I thought about my social media. It wasn't necessarily just to show the pretty video, or they weren't really pretty videos at that point. They were the destruction of it all. But I was able to show and like, you know, let people vote on polls, like what fireplace, what color do you like for the fireplace and things like that, and just get people involved and excited. And I kept thinking, these people seeing this may not ever book, but chances are they're going along on this journey. And if they run into somebody that needs a property, they're going to remember my property and maybe, you know, mention it and refer that out. And so that was the goal, to build the email list. And then as soon as we were ready to launch, we kind of had that pre-launch on the email list to get people to direct book before I was even on Airbnb.
That's incredible. And I feel like 50% of us like collecting emails. 50% of people are like, no, we can't collect emails for whatever reason. I don't think there is a reason to not be collecting emails. And that was definitely something we've hosted probably over 1,000 stays by now and didn't start. Even though we're in the same markets, we should have been doing that from the beginning. And I wish that I would have. But how do you actually go about collecting emails? Because I think that's one of the hardest things is people just aren't sure how to actually get started in doing that.
Yeah. So I use Flowdesk. I've used a lot of different email marketing softwares, and I always come back to Flowdesk. It's just the most user-friendly. I recommend it to all of my clients I work with that even are going to do it themselves because it's the most beginner level, but it also has a lot of robust things that you can use as well. and triggers and segments and things like that, but it's just not too overwhelming. So I would start with Flowdesk. The way that you would do that is you would just create a form that's an opt-in form. So that's going to be this form saying, you could offer them a discount, you could offer them a free guide, anything you want in exchange for their email. And then whenever they enter their name and their email, they're immediately going to receive that said thing that they're signing up for. And now you've got their email and you can start marketing to them, once a month, twice a month is kind of what I recommend for short-term rentals, depending on how many properties you have and different regions you're in. But once a month even is a great touch point. It's a great time when you can start running holiday specials, things like that. You can just really be right in their ear because you're in their email inbox, which is so less cluttered than they are getting over on social media. And then I always am collecting my Airbnb guest email. The way that I do this is through a rental agreement. And so I use OwnerRez as my property management software. And from the beginning, I always did that. I'm just very aware that these platforms are amazing to use, but we don't own them. At any point, they could shut down. So this is your business. So you want to operate in ways that you just have to think about the unknown. If Instagram shuts down, if you get locked out of your account, if Airbnb decides to shut down your property account, what are you going to do? And you want to have these contacts in your back pocket. So with Airbnb, I would always send out a rental agreement. We require a $300 security deposit. And then they have to give me their name, their email, their address, and their phone number. And from there, I take that email and I put that into Flowdesk too, so they'll get further marketing.
That's awesome. And I actually haven't heard of Flowdesk, so I will definitely be looking into that and seeing more. And cool with the rental agreement too. I think that's another scary part for hosts. And even when we started doing or offering direct bookings, I was terrified because everyone's used to air cover and at least having that built-in protection. And yes, there's proper insurance and steadily for making sure that you're covered, especially for those bigger things. But do you have any separate insurance policy? Like Hospitable actually offers Super Hog, or do you just use that security deposit in your rental agreement more so when you're doing direct bookings?
Yeah, so I do the security deposit for all bookings, even Airbnb. And I will tell you, I've only had 2 people now that have kind of given me questions about it. And only one of them did not book. Like the other person, I think, just needed to understand what this was for. And then they continued their booking. And I explained to them, it's just a hold on your account. So it doesn't even pull the money out. It's just like a pending hold. And then as soon as they check out, it's released, I believe, 24 hours after, maybe 48 hours after, just to make sure that my cleaner can make sure there's nothing missing, no damages or anything like that. So Airbnb with OwnerRez, they allow you to do that. Even though you're going through Airbnb, they allow you to set the standards. And again, I think we forget sometimes, I know I do, like, this is our property. This isn't an Airbnb. So yes, we're going to utilize their platform, but it has to make sense and protect us as business owners. And so for me, a rental agreement is a non-negotiable just because there's so many things in that rental agreement that I'm protected now in the courts. I do recommend having an attorney look at it, make sure OwnerRez has like a template, but make sure that an attorney looks over it for your business, your property, your location, everything that, needs to make sure that it makes sense for your business. And then from there, they sign that rental agreement. And as far as insurance, we just have our standard insurance that like has a high coverage for all of our liabilities. But other than that, I haven't had any issues. If I had more properties, I think I would go to Proper or something and have a little bit more extended coverage. But for just one property, we haven't had any issues that we've even needed that extra insurance.
I think it's a big misconception that people are terrified you're going to get your house trashed constantly. And in 3 years now and the thousands of stays we've hosted, I have more funny stories of what people did rather than trashing a house. Like someone took all the nightstands out of the house one time because they broke up that night and the ex-girlfriend decided she wanted to get payback on the guy and he paid it. Like it's just like random stuff like that where we've had a few where it was upsetting that someone left the house in that condition, but it's usually sheets and stuff that's replaceable. We haven't actually needed to really ever have insurance come take a look at stuff. So
yeah. And right when I was a newer host, there was one time that a guest was checking in super last minute and before I realized that, oh, they didn't sign that rental agreement. Like, I don't have their card on file. I don't have, their information, and they booked their Airbnb. But I felt bad because they were already like almost there, and I'd already given them their door code. So I was kind of like, it'll be fine. Like, that has been our worst guest ever. And they smoked in the cabin. They scratched the dining room table. I mean, they just left so much trash everywhere. And I think when people know that you have their card on file and you are saying you're going to charge $300 extra if any damages occur, they really respect your property a lot more. I think there's been one time I had to pull like $25 from that $300 on one person. Other than that, it's always released right back to them, and it's super easy.
And we don't realize it, I think, as hosts, but every hotel does that. I've never been to even like a motel. I think we've had to have our card on file, which makes more sense for motels actually, because the guests you're getting in there. But every hotel requires that. It's a normal thing and standard in that industry. But I know a lot of people that are just on Airbnb. They don't list on Vrbo. They definitely don't offer direct bookings. And Airbnb doesn't necessarily like having security deposits. And as you said, as long as you're using a PMS system, then you are allowed to collect a security deposit. So I think we just have this tendency of, oh, I can't do it because Airbnb doesn't like it. And like you said, we're not Airbnbs. We are short-term rentals that list on Airbnbs.
Yes, exactly.
So we'd love to hear a little bit more about what you offer for social media and how that's actually helped your own business grow. Because I know you started off on social media before you guys were even launched. So how did that process go for your own place? And what are you seeing for a lot of your clients now that are using social media?
We stay about 20 to 30% of our bookings are direct bookings.
That's amazing. Wow. Well done.
Yeah, it's so nice too, because on my calendar, I can have this, when I have open dates, I can just blast that to my email list. I can, make sure I'm telling my email list, like, share this with your friends. You just want to like expand that network of people that want to stay with you. And if that email list, if you're sending it to people that have already stayed with you, those are your best referrals. If they had a great time, then they're going to easily just forward that email to one of their family members or a friend and let them know, hey, like, she's running a special. If you use this code at checkout, you can get X amount of dollars off. So that's been really instrumental. I realized once I was in that position of using social media in the Smokies, I realized all of these like large property managers are not utilizing social media. And so I just found kind of a gap in the market there. And I started posting on Facebook groups in the Smoky Mountain area and offered free content creation just to kind of get my feet wet with it more. I had already been doing a lot of social media, but nothing like in short-term rental space or properties. And so once I did that post like had so many interests there. And so I think I did 10 free properties and just kind of went all up through the Smokies and did content. From there, I started getting clients, and I said, I'll fully manage your social media. I'll come create the content. I'll post it for you. I'll respond to comments, messages, all of that, and give you a report every month. And that's kind of how it was born. And then from there, I kind of realized, well, not a lot of people can afford to just hire it all out. Like, they kind of need to learn how to do it themselves a little bit. And that way they're not having that expense. So typically if you have 1 to 3 properties, I recommend you do it yourself or hire like a VA to help you do it. And then if you've got more than 3 properties, that's when I feel like it makes sense to hire me and my team, because I've got a team of 5 now. And we do all the editing. It's so nice to have everybody in their specialty, and we come together and brainstorm your content strategy and all these different things. And then we post and do it all. Like, you literally don't have to log into your account. And so it is like more, I don't want to say expensive, because it's so worth it if you have the budget, if it makes sense budget wise. But for 1 to 3 properties, I just think it makes more sense for you to do it yourself. And that's where I decided to teach everything that I do for my clients in an online course. So for Instagram specifically, I've created a full online course where I teach you every single thing that I do for my clients. And that way it's a very affordable price. you can learn it yourself, or you can purchase the course and tell your VA, hey, this is the strategy. This is how I want us to do our social media. Can you watch this course and implement for me? That is what I'm recommending everybody that, wants to learn to do it themselves, or maybe just has a couple properties and doesn't want to invest in the full service social media.
Those are great options to have, because there are definitely the people just starting off with their first property, and expenses are high when you get started with your first Airbnb. But at the same time, it is becoming more and more important to be not off of Airbnb. As you say, like, you're still on Airbnb. We get a lot of bookings from there, but we need different sources that we're pulling from to stay booked. And what I've seen recently is some people actually starting to market on Airbnb. I don't know how you go about pushing people to direct booking sites, but to one influencer in the short-term rental space is actually like put a QR code on their Airbnb page that sends them to a video walkthrough of the property. And then right underneath is a spot to book now, which will then lead over to the direct booking site.
I mean, I think you've just got to be careful. Like, I just would not want to get my listing shut down, if Airbnb thought it was against the rules. So I don't know. I think if you're going to do something like that, maybe even check with Airbnb support just to make sure that you're not going to violate rules. But another way that you can definitely do it is if you have a property name and that's your name on Instagram and Facebook, then you can title that. You can put that in your captions and your titles. You can put a picture of your sign that says your property name. I've found plenty of Airbnbs that way, where I see it on Airbnb, I'm very clear on what their name is, and then I'll go find them on social media. And then from there, you see, okay, they direct book. So that would be a great option to do it, just making sure that your name is cohesive all the way around.
For sure. And we've even had people we're not huge on social media yet, need your assistance to get our social media growing. But we've even had people, I have in my bio, my business name, and we've had a few people reach out over email, and we don't have links or anything like that in ours, but we've definitely had people reach out through Instagram or Facebook in order to see if we were offering any discounts, because it's expensive on Airbnb. And we do a mix of short-term and mid-term rentals, mostly short-term rentals for the houses we manage. But all the fees that add up for guests, we'll have guests being like, can you take $800 off for this 3-day stay? And that's all Airbnb fees that they're paying. And we're like, unfortunately, we can't, because that's going to be taking away like a quarter of our costs that we're getting in. So I think direct is something more people are becoming aware of, that hosts are offering as an option off of Airbnb, though they might find you on Airbnb. And so far, what are you actually doing for content? Because I think that's one of the hardest parts for people. They're like, what am I going to be posting about for my house other than I have photos, but what else am I going to be trying to actually post on social media?
I do kind of a mixture, and it really depends on what type of host you are. Like, if you are somebody that wants to be on camera and you kind of want to be the face of your brand, I don't want to say that's the better option, but I do feel like it builds trust so much quicker. And so if you do feel comfortable to get on camera and show your behind the scenes and take people on that journey, that's going to help so much. But even if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. People love to just see the properties and see, like, you can use trending audio, which is just audio with the little arrow. On Instagram, you'll see, like, when reels have audio and it's got a little upward arrow, that means that audio is trending. And so that's great to use that type of audio because it's just more fresh and it's audio that people are hopping on board to use it, and that content's going to be pushed out a little bit more. So I like to do a walkthrough of all the property. So from front door, like outside to front door, you're just walking in very slow throughout the whole property, and you're just kind of moving in different angles, and you're going into every room, even the bathrooms, closets, like literally every space that you can. And you'll have one long video. And from there, you can make tons of little reels, little clips that you can post on your social media. And so I always recommend for people doing it themselves, or that's what I go and do for the clients too, my full service clients. I'm just going in and filming a one-time walkthrough. That way I always have that one long video to come back to. And then, of course, like, if you want to grab footage of something more detailed, like in the kitchen, maybe there's like a coffee setup, then this is all iPhone or your cell phone. Take your phone and you can do like little video clips of something closer in, maybe on the coffee table. There's like a cute setup, video that, just any little clips like that. And you want to store them in a folder on your phone. That way you're always like, when you're ready to create a video, you aren't having to scroll through a bunch of things. That folder has all that content that you did from your property. And what I love too is doing like behind the scenes, or like it's kind of B-roll footage where just prop your phone up in your property and you can be, folding a blanket, or you can be putting the dishes away or something like that. Because if you do that a couple videos later on, you're going to be able to make several videos about you being a host. And sure, maybe that's not your normal routine to like clean up, but it's putting it in their mind that you're the host and you're taking care of this property. That might not be the exact way you do it, but they can see that you're there and that you're hands-on. You can also do B-roll footage of you at your home, or your RV where you're just working. You're working at your computer, or maybe you're on your phone doing something, or you're unboxing packages. Anything that you can kind of show like that you're a host, and kind of explain that, I think the better. It doesn't have to be all about your property. You can talk about your location. You can talk about things to do at your area. We can really start to expand when we get outside of, it doesn't have to be just at my property. It can be the attractions and the restaurants and the coffee shops you need to go to and the bars you need to go to, and, all of these different things. There's so much content that it really can be fun.
We love to overcomplicate it though, because it's just something that is really easy to do. We have our phone on us all the time. We're usually at properties. I know a lot of hosts that are doing it themselves live nearby the property, it seems like, still at this time. Or you're working with your cleaner. I mean, we've even had our cleaners for people that were like, could I have a video walkthrough of the property that we're going to be staying for longer periods of time? Your cleaner can go through usually and throw them a little bit of extra money since they're doing that extra task. But it is so easy to make content like that. And I think it's a great point of doing stuff outside of the house too, because though people are coming, and there's some places where maybe like 5% of houses are people that are actually just coming specifically for your property. They're not going to leave the property the whole weekend. 95% of us are going to that area to go to the Smoky Mountains, to go to the beach where you're located at. And every 5 times a week, at least, we're getting asked, what's the best restaurants in the area? Where are some good bars to go see? What's your favorite beach to go to? So having content like that on your social media page is just going to be an easy way for one, if you're having people that are trying to find a place to stay outside of Airbnb, they're going to see that. And I know I pick a lot of locations. I've never actually booked an Airbnb from a social media page, but a lot of my travel destinations I go to are because I'm like, look at what this person posted on social media. I want to go there.
Yeah, basically like your guidebook that you've created for your property, you can just pull like one little thing from that and make a social media post, a video, a graphic, whatever that is. And you can tag any of those local places too, because a lot of times if you tag a local business, they'll reshare it to their audience. That's like a really great idea. And just to build more relationships within your area is important too.
Absolutely. And you can partner up with those local businesses, and you're helping small businesses out most of the time. Every time I've tagged a small business, or for being a restaurant or a coffee shop, every single time. And I don't have a lot of followers, so it's not like they're really excited to have my post, but they're just happy to have people tagging them as well. So I think that is key for content for sure. And for your clients, what are you actually seeing? Because I think a lot of people are curious of, if I start doing this and investing time into it, what's a realistic return? And I know you've been doing it for years now, so 30% probably isn't what most people are going to be seeing immediately from direct bookings. But what are you kind of seeing, and how long is it really taking for people to gain traction?
So I always try to be very upfront with my clients about, this is a long game. Like, I recommend it from the beginning, but I want to make sure that you're in this for the long haul. Like, you're not just dabbling in short-term rentals. Like, I want you to kind of feel confident that this is something that you want to do as a business. And I feel like it does take time, especially if you're starting an account from zero. We've started a few like that, and it just takes a lot of time to get it up and going. It really depends on your area too. We've got one in upstate New York, and we're struggling to kind of get the following going, but it's one of those that the house is the destination. Like, it really is. And now we're just constantly trying to get creative and brainstorm. And now we're focused on, we got approval that we're going to be able to do weddings there at this property.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that'll be a huge benefit. So it's just like a lot of tweaking and, not giving up, not getting discouraged, but trying to figure out, okay, why is this account not growing? Like, what is missing here? The other side of it with social media that is incredibly difficult is the tracking side of it. So it's kind of like, I think about a billboard. Like, if you're driving by and you see a billboard and you go into that restaurant that you saw the billboard for, they're not really going to know that you saw that billboard and that's exactly why. And maybe that it wasn't even the reason. That billboard just kind of like made you hungry, and then you subconsciously like landed at that restaurant. So a lot of times social media acts the same way, where it's very hard to track, to say, okay, they saw our Instagram reel, and because of that reel, they booked this date. It's hard to pinpoint that. I am in the process of working on getting more detailed links, like a specialized link for each property. That way, when we start linking on like Facebook, we'll know, okay, that booking did come from that Facebook. But again, you don't know. What if they did their research, they looked, and then 2 days later, they came back to just your normal website and they booked there? You're not going to know that that really did come from social media. They just, ended up booking a different way. So it's been an issue of trying to figure it out, of how to track it exactly. Now, direct booking does help, because you can say, okay, we're promoting heavily on social media to our direct bookings. So any direct bookings we get, we can assume those are social media driven. That's kind of the goal there. But I do have clients that are only on Airbnb that are using social media to drive traffic to their Airbnb. That is when it's really difficult to track. What I recommend is kind of looking at it from a year to year standpoint. So what did you do last year, revenue wise, booking wise, occupancy? What did those numbers look like? And what does it look like this year now that you've been implementing social media for 6 months? So that's kind of how I recommend you do it. At this point, I do feel like we're in a position where every business needs to be on social media. It's like your website. So before, every business had their website, their information that you could gather. Nowadays, that's social media, and it's a credibility piece. So they may see your property on Airbnb, but your social media is going to sell it to them. If they find your social media, now they get to see walkthrough videos. They get to see you talking to the camera. Like, they get to know you as a host. They get to see all your recommendations. That's going to be that selling point that gets them over the edge of why they should book with you. And I talk about that with my clients too. Like, even I do personal brand clients as well. And it's kind of the same thing. They may hear about you, they may hear your name, but if they came to your social media and you didn't have one, but 2 months ago was your last post, it's going to immediately make them feel like you're not running your business and that you're not an active business owner, even though you may be running your business in the back end. But they need to see it from the front end. You don't have to be on there daily, but at least once a week, an active post that they know that, okay, that person cares about their business. They're going to be able to help me. They're responsive, those kind of things. That's what is going to get them over the edge to actually book with you.
Totally agree. And I think it's hard on Airbnb now of standing out. I mean, you can only have photos on there and you can write a beautiful listing description. But I know I am someone that when I'm scrolling through looking for an Airbnb, I'll have someone next to me and they're like, how did you even look at any of those properties? Because I'm just scrolling by so fast and it needs to be extremely eye-catching, which is hard for photos to really make someone stop when we have, I don't know how long we actually are looking at stuff now. Maybe we give it half a second on social media even, but you really have to make sure. And that's where I feel like a lot of us just get scared. We're like, oh, I don't have a good eye for this, so I'm just not going to do it. Or I'm not a content creator, which we weren't short-term rental hosts before. Like everything that we get started in is brand new. It's always terrifying when we start. And like you said, you don't have to be on the camera. I know a lot of people are like, heck no, I'm not doing that if I have to have my face anywhere. But you have to, in this day and age, to have a presence online, because I don't think I've ever contacted a business now where I don't look at their reviews on Google or I'm not looking at their reviews on Airbnb. And I think that's the best part about being listed on both. And I think I heard you say this on a different page, but you can always have your direct and then have your Airbnb listing there too, so they can check out your reviews, which I think is huge. Like for our houses, we have a lot of properties that are 4.99 with 80 reviews. So once you see that, it gives you a lot more comfort of, oh, this is an actual legitimate place and I'm not booking some scam directly.
I think being able to see both is really important for people, and they get to compare the pricing too. That's what's really nice is they'll go to Airbnb, select their dates, see a price, and then they'll try it over on direct booking and see, hopefully, that's quite a bit lower without all the fees, and then feel comfortable enough to book direct if you've built that trust on social media and they see, okay, this is like a legitimate thing.
And it's hard to build trust with people nowadays too. So I think if you are willing to get on the camera, that definitely adds more credibility where they can see you, they can hear you, they can see that you're at the property. So I think those are all huge aspects that you've touched on.
And a lot of times I've told clients too that if you don't feel comfortable getting on camera, you can do a voiceover. So you can have your video of your property, but you on Instagram, like when you're editing, you can do the voiceover option and you can record your voice and say something about your property or about like opening dates or things like that. That's going to help, them be able to hear you and just feel like, oh, this is a real person behind this account. So that's an option too. But getting in front of camera, it is very hard at first, but I promise you, and I tell all my clients, like, it gets easier. You just have to like push through that fear and that uncomfortableness. Nobody really cares. Like we always care too much about ourselves and nobody else is like thinking so much about it. And so I know for me in the beginning, it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And then the more I did it, the more it became normal. And now it's no big deal.
1000%. The first few times I tried recording, I know I would just stutter like crazy and I'd get through 5 seconds. I'm like, I can't even get through 10 words without making a mistake. And I think what I've seen recently from a lot of more so photographers, not as much lifestyle stuff on social media. There is one page that I really like what they're doing, but I'm starting to see more people kind of do like a lifestyle kind of shoot for their social media or on Airbnb even, which I think is a really attractive feature to have on your site. And it's not even showing faces most of the time. It will just be like someone sitting out at a table looking at the view of the property with their coffee in hand, and it's a photo from behind. And I think that's almost even better because you're not seeing a person and being like, oh, that's not me. Like when you just see a canvas of a individual, you don't see their face or anything. It can allow people to feel like, oh, that could be me in that moment, in that experience. So I've loved seeing those. I haven't tried it myself for our properties. I just got a nice camera, which I give photographers and videographers a lot of credit. It is a little bit harder than we might make it sound for recording content, for really good content, but getting started, and iPhone photos, and videos are really good quality for what they have, as long as you have some decent lighting. That's one of the harder parts, I feel like, is having good lighting for your videos.
Yes. For sure.
I would love to hear, just to kind of close out for the social media aspect, and would love to hear about your property just a little bit more. But what's one of the best success stories that you've had so far with working with a social media client on their short-term rental?
There was one client that we broke their direct booking site. That was a good, but we got so many people over to their direct booking site from a viral TikTok. And literally, like, I remember the video started going viral. I don't know, it was getting like 100,000, 200,000. I'm like, oh gosh.
Wow.
So I went over to the direct booking site and it was like giving errors. And I'm like, oh no. I think it was like probably 5-10 minutes. The website was completely down. It probably just wasn't used to that many people on, but that was so fun to see, like, wow, one video, it ended up getting well over 2 million views and landed well over 10,000 clicks just from TikTok. And that video also had hundreds of thousands of views over on Instagram and Facebook. And so I don't really know the total count of clicks that it got. And again, the bookings too, like we saw a spike, but this was a property management company that has over 100 properties. So they saw a big spike in bookings, but it was hard to know, okay, what came from this? Because a lot of people won't book right that instant. They're going to save that video, come back to you later, that type of thing. But the idea that, again, this is more advanced, and I feel like it makes more sense when you have a few properties going. Like for you, it would make sense, I think, at this point, because what you could do is when you get people over to your website, then you're starting to run ads to them. That's where we're like going to really collect people and remind them, wait a minute, you clicked over here, like, and start to show them our ads and be very specific. Anybody that clicks on our website, now they're going to get our ads. I think that is like the perfect duo. And so for this property management company, I think that's what they had going for them is we ran all that traffic to their website, and then they can target those viewers and keep reminding them, like, did you forget to book, you know? So that was really fun. And that video, it was just a simple video. Viral videos are always the ones like you least expect, you know, you're like, what in the world? Like, why did this one take off? But it's always fun.
I remember that was yours with your camera video. And I think that's a good learning lesson though of being prepared. Like if you are going to start this, don't only go 10% in and just start posting, because God forbid you do have that video that goes viral. You want to be able to take advantage of that, because as much as those videos, like that will be a huge spike, but I'm sure it's a very temporary spike, and we need to be so consistent with posting, because as you were saying, this is a long run game. You're not going to get one viral video that you're covered for the year. That's not how it goes. You need to be doing this consistently. And I've never had a viral video, but you just need to be so consistent with what you're posting and making sure that you're putting your message out, whatever that might be. So if you're looking to get more direct bookings or just trying to really sell your experiences, having that consistency is always key. And I think a lot of us only want to go half into it and see if it works.
I think, you know, having that website is important too, to where, you know, you have to imagine, okay, what if I did get a viral video and you got thousands of people coming to this website? Is it prepared for that? Is it user friendly? Will people want to book right then? And if not, can I capture their email? So I love when the direct booking sites will have a little pop up for, you know, give them a free guide, give them a discount. That's usually what will most likely get people, is if you offer them their third night free or fourth night free, or $50 off their stay, something like that, 10% off, whatever makes sense for your business. But if you do a little pop-up, they have to enter their name and email, you know, to get that. Then at least if those 10,000 people that went to your website from a viral video didn't book, well, at least now you captured, you know, hopefully 50 to 80% of those emails coming in. So that would be a ton of emails on your list that now you can nurture them and hopefully get them to book.
I love that. And I definitely need to improve on that. And it is so easy to get started though. Like I use Hospitable. They have a direct booking site that you don't have to create the website at all. They have all these different templates where you just choose your theme that you like, and it has payments go directly to your bank account. They've made it so easy to get started, especially if you are a host that only has one property. There's no reason to not at least start that. And then as you're seeing more traction and more people starting to reach out, then investing more time and energy and money into it if it is something that you're seeing value in and you're willing to stay consistent with it over the long term. And would love to shift a little bit now. Just love to hear what actual investors are seeing in their marketplace and what their returns have been, because I think there are a lot of people that have these really high expectations. And I just love to bring the transparency to everything, which I think you did a great job of explaining. Your first week of posting on social media isn't going to result in this crazy increase. You're going to need to look at this as like a year or 2 years investment, because it's a business really. When you're starting it, you're not on Airbnb and getting all this traction. You're starting with essentially, if you have 0 followers, you're starting with 0 clients and needing to grow your own business. So tell me a little bit about your actual property and how you guys really took off from that with your direct bookings.
So I don't have like numbers in front of me, but I can tell you the Smokies have definitely done a dip, over the last, I'd say 2 years. Like after COVID, there was just like a huge spike and everybody was getting in. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then it declined, but I think it went back to maybe what was normal in the Smokies. I'm not exactly sure. I'm gathering that from all the Facebook groups I'm in, from owners that have been in the market, for 10, 20 years. They're kind of like, calm down, like this is normal. But a lot of investors maybe got in too high of a price and now they're like, okay, this occupancy is not working now. So we stay at around 70% occupancy like throughout the year. Now our October through our December is like our highest months in the Smokies. That's where we make the bulk of our revenue. And then throughout the other months, it's just a little bit slower. Occupancy is a little bit less, but our nightly rate is less. And I use Price Labs to help me do my revenue management on that. But overall, we got into it with expectations of we wanted to cash flow. We wanted this to be better than a long-term rental. We wanted more cash flow coming in than my dad had done a lot of long-term rentals. And we saw this opportunity, like if we buy this was a cabin under $300,000, which was really tough to find. So we found it at that price, but it needed $100,000 renovation. So after we put all of that in, our expenses are pretty high. And so we are at a point where we're covering all of our expenses. And to us, that's a big win because you have a cabin in the Smokies. It's paying for itself, but it's definitely not cash flowing like we had expected. And I think it's because of the nightly rate that I'm able to do for a 2-bedroom. And then my cleaning fee is very high. I have a $195 cleaning fee. I love my cleaner. She's amazing, but she has to take the trash they're requiring all cleaners to take the trash to one facility and they have to pay for it. So that kind of upped my cleaning fee.
That's different. I've never heard of that in a market. That's new.
Listen, the Smokies, I love it, but I'm like, it's becoming a tough market. It really is. It's very competitive and it just feels like the county, it feels like, they're requiring all these different things that are just hoops for us to jump through. And it's like, why do we all have to bring our trash to one location? It's just making everything more difficult for owners. And so that's part of the transparency and just like honesty. This is not all rainbows and butterflies. And I think as hosts, we all know that, we all understand it. But when you're in it, it's nice when you hear other hosts be like, yeah, like this part stinks and this part is tough. There's great parts about it too, but it's nice to be, in a place and be able to talk and be like, yeah, I relate to that. And like, you're not alone.
Because there are a lot of hard parts about running a short-term rental. And sometimes I think we get into it and there a lot of clients I see, they're like, I want this to be replacing my W-2 job with 2 or 3 properties, which there are still people that are crushing it. And you just have to be very careful with the investment that you're getting into if the goal is cash flow. And before we actually jumped on the call, we were talking of like looking at the appreciation too, because gosh, you guys got a cabin under $300,000 there, which I was talking to someone else 2 weeks ago and they were from your same area. And she's like, yeah, the stuff you're seeing there now is 8, 9, and I see stuff every day where I'm like, that's insane. I don't understand how that could ever cash flow at this point in time for some of these smaller properties that you're getting into. But you guys are going to be able to, if you decide to sell it, you're going to be able to walk away with a nice chunk of change, I'm sure, from all the years that you've been in.
We've had it over 2 years now. So, we've definitely thought about that and just thought about, okay, like maybe it hasn't cash flowed as much as we wanted it to. But for my husband and I, we're at an age in our 30s. It would be really great to allow this to keep playing out and allow the expenses to be covered. And then one day when it's paid off, I mean, that's $5,000-$6,000 coming into our pocket. Again, it's all like this long-term focus, I think, for investing and just anything really that is worth it is going to take time. And I think a lot of us, myself included, we want short wins and quick wins and, overnight success. And it's just like, I think sometimes we want that, but really do we? Like, I mean, this is going to be such a sweeter moment when years go by and it's like, wow, look what we did and look what we've achieved now for our family and for those long-term goals we have. But, I feel like if we did sell, yes, like we're in a position where it's almost like a flip, like a flip house. Like we've renovated it all and now we could sell it and make a great profit and it all be like, okay, that was definitely worth it. Oh, and another thing that I will say is I remember doing a short-term rental calculator to enter in all your information before you buy a property. And I remember I did that, and I am very optimistic, and I thought, well, our numbers will be better, a little bit better. And sure enough, like that calculator, what it told me is like exactly what's happening. And so I know not all things will turn out that way, but the numbers don't lie. And I think that's important for people to know is like, hire somebody like STR Insights, somebody that is going to really, I was so blind to that. I just looked on Zillow and found it for sale by owner and, just ran numbers as I thought. And then I'm like, it'll do better.
I feel you on that. When we got started, I was just like, oh, I can do better than this person can. Why not? What do these numbers mean?
Yeah. And even with my marketing efforts and, social media and direct bookings and all of that, I think it does help tremendously. Like if we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't make enough to cover the expenses. But it's still not enough, I think, because our nightly rate just can't seem to be too high. It out competes us. Like our competitors are just lower nightly rates. So we kind of have to stay in that realm. And so, yeah, that's just been the trickiest part.
And I think so many of those places have been around for years to where they got in at a time where maybe their house is close to being paid off, or they have such a low monthly payment. I've seen houses even that people bought in 2015 and stuff in some of the markets that I work in, and they're able to charge lower nightly rates because they don't need as much to cover their mortgage. So when you're competing against people like that too, it's hard when you're getting into the market now and trying to beat out that competition because they can easily come in for lower price and it doesn't affect them versus us where we're like, I need this as the bare minimum just to cover everything.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I would love to hear just one last tip. If you had to start over as an investor, what would you give a new investor one piece of advice?
I would say to join some of the groups, like the Facebook groups, or to join, a mastermind, whatever that looks like for you that you're comfortable with. But I would join some sort of community that's going to make you feel not alone in this. That has been really important for me, just to feel like I'm plugged in and like other people experience, because my normal life, like my family, my friends here, none of them are investing. And so it almost feels like a topic nobody else wants to talk about. And then that's not fun if you can't like get excited about and talk about what you want to talk about. So I recommend getting plugged into groups and finding your people, even if it's online. It's still so amazing how you can build that connection and just feel like you have that sounding board.
1000%. And that's actually how we met, is we were at a conference for a mastermind that we're in. So it is so nice to have that community. And even if it's one that you're not sure what you want to get into yet, the mastermind we're in is really open for everything within real estate. So if you're unsure, you don't have to try to niche down and say, I'm going to invest in short-term rentals. Because I think a lot of us have got into our niche in real estate and then we're like, oh, I don't know if long-term I want to do that. And then we feel guilty that we invested into that and we don't want to do it anymore. And we're like, what do I do now? So if you're not sure what you want to do, there's so many groups of just talk, and even seeing, like I have had some people that came to me, they're like, I thought I wanted to invest in a short-term rental. And then I joined this Facebook group and saw these horror stories. Is that what happens on a normal basis? I'm like, you do see blood on sheets. There's bugs. I have a lot of like cockroaches are normal in Florida. And so they were kind of like, no, I want nothing to do with that. I'm like, that's fine. And it's good that you found that out before you invested all this time and energy into it. So I think that's awesome advice. And if someone was wanting to reach out to you, where is the best place to contact you?
Probably just my email at hello@theprofitablehost.com. And then you can find me on social media on Instagram at Emily Lethgo. But where you'll find, the courses we talked about with the Instagram course where I teach you everything I know and then you can go implement, that's going to be theprofitablehost.com.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to include those in the link below. But Emily, thank you so much. It was great having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.